Good morning, everyone. We at Cache Software would like to welcome and thank you for joining the webinar today. As you can imagine, the webinar platform is being heavily used. If you're having issues staying logged in or it seems sluggish, please be patient and know that you may need to log in again. We recommend that you view today's webinar in full screen mode. This can be done by clicking the full screen button on the webinar's control panel. Use the orange arrow for collapsing and expanding that control panel. We encourage you to use the questions feature located on the control panel to type and send any questions that you may have during the presentation. All attendees are muted as we are recording this webinar, and we will be sending the recording in a follow-up email within the next few days. So at this time, I would like to introduce our presenters, Prabha, our president, and Bill, our director of technology. Bill and Prabha, it's all yours. There you go, Bill. I think you're unmuted now.
All right. Got to have at least one technology glitch in the morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Thank you for joining us. As you know, many of you have been avid supporters of Cache and have worked with us over several years. And we've worked hard at building a new platform to support the day and employment services. We remain very committed to the day and employment services community. There are a number of agencies that are customers of ours and have been working with us for years, and we remain committed to this group. And over the last year or so, we've been spending a lot of time working on the automation and the streamlining of the platform to support day and employment services, and mainly recognizing that this is the back office functions, the DSP interactions, ultimately can be improved, and is one where we believe that we've done a number of things, mostly based on your feedback, incorporated that into the platform so that you can have a better experience with Pavillio. A few things that I would like to highlight before we get started. Number one is this platform, unlike the legacy Cache and the mobile app, is one single platform. A great advantage to one single platform is it's streamlined. Everything is in one place. Everything is web-based, and it's all integrated, which makes it possible for us to do a variety of things that we were unable to do in legacy. Number one is the ability to for caregivers to have, for the DSPs to have access to information in one application on one screen while providing care and recording attendance and recording goals and outcomes or charting. And this capability, while we had many of those functions in the mobile app, all of this is now integrated, and with basically a flip of a switch, we can increase the amount of information a DSP sees or decrease the amount of information someone sees. And this is going to make life a whole lot easier. Second is we spent a lot of time, and again, based on your feedback, modified and simplified client payroll, and we'll show you how this is done, and it's going to make it easier to manage payroll for clients. And the third item that we've got a lot of feedback from the mobile app is time and attendance, and how this has been modified to be much more intuitive and user-friendly, and it'll require less training for the DSPs. So these are some of the things that that we'll highlight today. The flow of the webinar is going to be as follows. First, Bill is going to walk you through the client profile and show you a few of the additions that we've made. Many of you have seen Pavillio in the past, and you've joined webinars in the past and have seen how Pavillio works, but we're going to highlight, we're not going to go through all of it, but I'm just going to highlight some of the items that I think you should, that's important to day and employment services. And once we cover the client profile, we're going to go into what a DSP would do for time and attendance and charting, what a DSP sees, how you enter time, how you manage attendance, how you do charting, all of that is simplified. And again, the key here is we want to make this simple for the DSPs and therefore less training on your part. Third is the management and review of the attendance and charting by a supervisor or the program manager, so that all the information entered by the DSPs is now being approved by the supervisor. This again is something that was based on all your feedback. We got a lot of good feedback and we incorporated that, and we built out what we think is a much more streamlined way to manage the approval process. And finally, billing. Billing for day services required a lot of training, a lot of work, and now it is simplified to the point where it is very easy to do billing out of Pavillio. And we'll show you how that works, and it's going to save a lot of time, and it's also going to save a lot of errors. So these are the things that we're going to show, and this is the flow that Bill is going to walk you through. Now I'm going to hand it over to Bill, and Bill will start with client profile. Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thanks again for joining us. So we'll start here on the client profile, and for those of you who've seen Pavillio before, we have a variety of different tabs, different pieces of information as part of this client's profile. Caregiver information, emergency contacts, all of those are up top of the screen. The first thing I want to highlight is our care tab. And so in this section is where we record what we call care delivery. The care delivery is the care planning document. And in most cases for your agencies, this is a CSSPA. And to keep it streamlined and simple for all users, all care planning is done here, and then the system will branch based on the service line to give you the appropriate document. In this case, for Herman as our example, we have an employment services service line as one example, and under care delivery, you can see one that has already been created and is active. Throughout Pavillio, you'll see these three dots. And wherever you see these three dots, there are different actions that you can take. And so from here, I can view the care delivery document. I can make edits if I haven't signed it yet. And one feature that we've added here that wasn't available in the past is a clone. And so what this allows you to do is create a new CSSPA with all of the same information as the prior version, so that you can make edits and changes as needed, but then you don't have to start over and rebuild the entire document. As an example, for the CSSPA, all of the fields, all of the data is captured within Pavillio. This is not an attached PDF document. This is a form built right into the system so that all of the data can be used throughout the platform. And so we can pull in case manager information, the dates from the service agreement. You can still enter all of the services and supports data. And then there's a section where you can enter the goals and outcomes. And so, in this section, the title of the document, what is the measurement that you want to use? What is the target that you want to use? And then the description of the methods, that need to be recorded as part of these goals and outcomes. So all of this is set up within the platform so that it can be integrated right into the DSP charting, the data capture, as well as a history reporting that we'll show you a little later. So now we'll back out and show you a couple of other features that are specific for the data and employment services. Okay, so for Malcolm here, Malcolm is one of our newer clients. Okay, so the first tab I'm going to open up here is a pay rate. And to Prabha's point, this is regarding the client's payroll. What are they working with? For those of you that used payroll within Legacy, all of the payroll had to be set up task by task, in Legacy, and that design was cumbersome. especially when minimum wage changed or prevailing wages on production changed. And so one of the changes we've made in this system, primarily based on feedback and recommendations we got from agencies like yourself, is to set up payroll based on a category. And so rather than setting up each task individually, we set up a category that says this is a minimum wage job. It is set up at a specific rate. This individual is going to make 100% of minimum wage, and that happens as of September 1st. And so this way, when we're setting up payroll, any of the wages that are set up with that minimum wage category automatically get applied to that pay rate. Same process works for piece rate, where for a piece rate job, the system knows from your setup, this task is paid at 42 cents a unit. Can't make any changes, everybody gets paid the same rate, and then I can add that, as an effective date. And so this makes management of the pay rates, much simpler to deal with. All of the time recording you'll see in a moment is still task by task, but this makes the management of that payroll much easier to deal with. The last main piece of the client profile that relates specifically to these services, has to do with what we call care coordination. And this is the service location where this client is being served. So for a service agreement, I have a DSS service agreement here. I can assign a location for where Malcolm is going to get service. So based on the locations that I've set up in the system, I have one for Duluth. Okay? And so now I can assign that Malcolm works out of the Duluth location. Okay? An advancement we built in here is I can also assign Malcolm to additional locations. And so if I have another location in Minneapolis that he happens to work with, it's quite a drive, but it's possible, I can now assign Malcolm in multiple locations. And so this gives you a lot more flexibility when you're recording time and attendance, when you're giving DSPs instructions on how to record their time, because Malcolm can be set up in multiple places. He works in Duluth for some jobs, in Minneapolis for some jobs. Maybe it's room A or room B or site B. However you structure your locations, but this gives you the ability to find Malcolm and record his time as easily as possible without being encumbered by the system. Okay. There's a lot of other information here on the client's profile. If you've seen earlier webinars, you've seen a lot of those details. If you're interested in a demo to dig into this in more detail, please let us know, and we will certainly meet with you in the future and arrange that down the line.
Also, if you are at the MORE conference later this week, Bill and I will be there, and so will Christine. And if you needed to dive into some of this a little deeper, please stop by the booth.
So now we're gonna switch gears a little bit, and so as start recording attendance like a DSP. Okay. So a typical DSP, working within within a site is going to come in, and I have a section here called My Stuff. And depending on the different services, the different configurations that you turn on and off, you'll have a variety of these different functions turned on. If I'm a DSP that provides one-on-one services, I'd typically be using My Clients and going into one specific client's setup. If I'm going to a location, I'm going to go down here to the Dss Attendance screen. So from this view, I can select what are the different services that I'm going to provide today. Yeah, as part of DSS, it might be just DSS support, employment services, pre-vocational support, or straight up transportation with or without any additional services. So in this case, we'll pick pre-vocational, and I'm going to look at the Duluth location. And so by hitting search, then I get a list of, these are all of the clients that have a service agreement for pre-voc services that are in the Duluth location. From this page, I get this list of clients, and I can record for each client, are they present by moving the little toggle to the right? and that automatically starts their clock. Herman's here as well. And if someone is generally here but not today, I can move them to the left and record them as absent. And they may be just ill. I can add a note. And that saves that information for that individual. And if we don't know what's happening with Malcolm or Shelley, we can leave those blank. So this gives you the flexibility. You can either leave things blank if you don't know where they are or they're not here yet. You can start their clock, or you can record them as absent, right on the page. Okay. Based on that individual's service agreement, the system will show you if you have the option to record transportation or not. So in Malcolm's case, he has services for pre-vocational for DSS services, but no transportation's authorized. But for Eddie and Herman up here, we have the ability to record those trips. And so depending on your flow, you may record, have a driver record one trip as they come in the door, and that can be, saved at any time. Or I can record that at the end of the day and say, Herman was provided 2 trips, and I can update my attendance. So this gives you the flexibility to record things multiple ways by different individuals, depending on how your flow works. If you've got a situation where someone moves out or goes out to an appointment and they're not in service, I can simply stop Eddie's clock here. And you can see Herman's clock keeps running and Malcolm's keeps running. And when Eddie returns and comes back from his appointment, I can clock him back in. Anywhere you see this little eye icon, it means there's more information available. And so I can click on this and pull over a view that shows me each of the in and out increments that have been recorded for Eddie's time. So I can see he was in for a minute, and then he was out, and then he started up again. And so all of that is available right from this view at any time. Again, where you see these 3 dots, that means there's an action I can take. Okay, so if I open this action right from this view, DSPs have a couple of functions that either were not available in the legacy mobile app or were just a little more difficult to get to. And so in first case for Herman, I can go view his profile. And as a DSP, I get a different view of his profile. This is all read only. Okay, so I can see his address information. I can see his care delivery information, and I can review that CSSPA and see the goals and outcomes and all of the detail that's available. But I can't make any changes because I don't have that permission. I can see medical information. I can see his doctor, his pay rate details, and all of that profile information is available here. And then you have the ability to customize this and add tabs and subtract tabs depending on what you want your DSPs to be able to see. Okay. We'll go back into this view, pre-vocational in Duluth. And you can see my time is still running. From this page, I can also go into my charting. And instead of having to go to find the book, I can record notes right on Herman's profile here. Okay. If we switch, if I remember right, Herman's was set up in employment services. Actually, take that back. So we've got Eddie here. Okay. Eddie's goals and outcomes would show up if they were set up for this individual. Okay. So that covers attendance. It shows how we can record this, and I can add to transportation trips, throughout the day, or if I made a mistake, I can back it up to 1. So this covers attendance. Attendance is what we cover with billable time. This person's in service for these different types of services. And then on this tab here at the tasks, I've got a separate tracking that we do for client work. And this is a big change and something that we spent a lot of time thinking through. The mobile app, we tried to combine things together into one view. and really found that it was more cumbersome for users. It was messier on the data side, and just more complex than we anticipated. So we've readjusted that, when we've separated the client work into a separate view. And so from this task for recycling, I can select who are my pre-vocational clients and who's checked in and available. And so I can record that Eddie and Malcolm are going to start work. Okay. And the system will tell me if the pay rate is not set up properly. And so in this case, we don't have those pay rates for this task set up. So I can't start their work yet, but I can for Herman. As an hourly task, that's my option here. I can record time served. I can see what work is being done here. If I switch my job to making widgets, and I have different tasks to pick from within this contract. And so I can search and see who are the clients that can do this work. Okay. I have this list here. Maybe I have other people in other categories, but nobody else is checked into attendance. So I'm not able to start them on that work. For Malcolm, I believe we did set him up. I guess not. Okay. But I can switch Herman over, and we can move Herman, if I pick the right job. Let's go back, and we're going to start Shelly here. I think Shelly's got our pay rate for piecework, so you can see that. My apologies. So now let's bring Shelly in. So now Shelly's authorized. She's got a pay rate set up for our piecework job. So I've got time recorded, and now I have a place where I can record piece counts. Pieces can be updated as we work. So as that time rolls, I can just add to the total. If I make an error, I can subtract 2, and the piece count will update as we go. When I finish work, I simply click the stop task. I can record a reason on why am I stopping work. Is it simply the end of work? Is it lunchtime? Is there an incident that happened? These reason codes can be set up agency by agency. You can record this as you desire. I can go back and see how our recycling crew is doing. And I can stop Herman the same way. So now Herman and Shelly, we've stopped work. They're not going to get any more client payroll for these tasks, but their attendance time for billing is still running. And so the end of the day comes, and I can simply clock them out as they get on the bus or as they're picked up and leave for the day. So this gives a much simpler view, a much easier way to get to time and attendance for your DSPs. These screens, if you don't remember with Pavillio, Pavillio is all mobile ready. So whether you're using a laptop like I am, or a tablet, or even a phone, all of the screens will look identical and can be used on any device. So this covers things happening in real time. Okay. As a DSP, I can go here to my approvals, and I'm often going to want to see what time have I entered. Okay, so I can look at a specific type of service or all of it, for a location for a period of time. Let's look at the last 2 weeks. So I can review and see all of the time that's been entered. What is the type? What are the in and out times? In each increment as we go. I can add additional fields onto this view. So if instead of an in and out, I need to see the total number of hours, I can turn that on if I like. And I can see the transportation trips as well. So I have flexibility to change the view as I need to. The other function on this screen has to do with adding time or adding an attendance. You know, if I missed a punch for some reason, you know, I can add records here. So if I need to add something for Cindy and I forgot to punch her in today, you know, I can select that time. I can enter that she was here for a half hour. I can enter a note to explain why am I entering it manually, and I can save that record into the system. And if we search for this, we can sort by date and see Cindy's time. Okay. I can also edit this time here. As a DSP, I can adjust this. You know, if Herman didn't start at 10:45, he started at 10 o'clock, I can make that change right on this screen up until the point the records are approved by a supervisor. So as I'm doing my entry, I can make edits, I can make changes, I can add records as I need to, and review records that have already been approved as well. Okay. So those are the DSP functions. And now we're going to move down here to the care management section. Okay. Care management is typically a menu that your supervisors, your program managers will have access to. Typically the DSPs do not, but that's up to you on your configuration of permissions. Okay. So typically the managers would come here to approve attendance. And I have a section for DSS attendance, just like I did as a DSP. So again, I'm going to look at Duluth, I'm going to look at the last 2 weeks, and I can see all of the data that's been entered. Okay, I can see what's been recorded. So as a supervisor, I can sort the list, you know, different ways if I want to. I can filter by client. And so I can look at all of these records and I can view the data that was recorded. I can make edits from here as well, just like I did it as a DSP. And if I see a record that's a complete error, I can delete it from the screen. Okay, so I can take this record for Herman's, you know, transportation that was entered on 9/10. You know, that was an error. I can take that out by hitting this delete button, and I can confirm that. For records that are good to go, I can select them or I can select all of them, one or all of them, and I can click on finalize. Finalize is the terminology we use in Pavillio. Essentially is the same as approving a record in the old system. I can put in a note and a comment on why these are finalized. And then all of those records from 9/13 are now moved out and have moved over into my approved bucket. Records for absences are still here. You know, there's no in and out times. You can still mark those as approved, but obviously they don't hit anything for billing. And just a couple of the features, you know, within the system here, you know, I have a couple of toggles where I can see how many records do I want to show at a time as a manager. You know, if I want to see a short list and go through pages of them, I can do it that way. If I want to see 100 records on a screen, you know, then I'm scrolling instead of paging. Just gives you some flexibility to use the screen in whatever way makes sense for you. So that's the approval process. The second piece I want to highlight for managers and program managers has to do with our care history here. Okay. And so what this is this is a consolidated area where you can review all of the care that's been provided for an individual. And it may be, you know, different lines of service, and you get different types of care that you can review. So I can look at the documents. I can look at goals and outcomes. You know, I can look at medications that have been administered when that function comes into play. And I can look at attendance. So I can look at, you know, all attendance from today, you know, going back 3 months. And it'll show me all of the different clients, all of the different services, all of the different people that were served in a different period of time. I can do the same thing for reviewing goals and outcomes charting. And then by clicking on that line, the system will take me right into Herman's profile and show me his history of all of the goals and outcomes that have been recorded. So we know it's important to keep track of this and see when has charting been completed. So I can see all the detail, the in and out, the notes that were recorded. And then one of the new features we've added is here under goals and outcomes, I can open this up and by CSSPA, I can get a quick summary of what are the goals and outcomes that have been recorded, what was the target, and where am I at on my progress. Okay. So the red indicator is the goal, and the blue indicator is where I'm at today. And just by holding my mouse over this will show me where am I at on these different goals and outcomes. So what this gives you is a quick glance. How is Herman doing on these goals? And then as time goes, you'll be able to review the different outcomes for each CSSPA that's created and see that history of what are the goals they've been using and how have they been doing on their performance. And so that gives the program managers a very quick view of, you know, how did this happen? And then I can click on these other tabs, these other tiles to see the different services, you know, in and out provided, the different care documents, the CSSPAs, the IAPPs that have been created. And all of that is visible from one tab so that I can get to this information very quickly. Okay. So the last thing we'll just highlight quickly, we've probably touched on this in earlier demos, is the claims management function. And so after all of that time has been approved by a manager, you know, if you know the process today in legacy, you know it's a very complicated, convoluted process. You have to approve attendance, you have to send it to scheduler, you have to take it from scheduler to claims, and there's just many, many steps to train on, and it's very difficult to learn. It takes a long time to run that process. We've spent a lot of time rethinking that, and so once time is approved and finalized from care management by the managers, it automatically moves in a job into the claims management function. So I can look at one service line or all of them, and I can look at the last month of services, and I can search for all those records. And you can see I've got data already moved here into ready, you know, for Herman. And this is one of my employment services codes. I've got data for Shelley. This is for pre-vocational codes from the 13th. This is one of the records we just approved a few moments ago. And so what the system has done is in an automated job, it's reviewed all of that approved time and begun validating it to see, is this data ready to bill? Okay. Anything that's ready to bill moves into this card here, and I can select all of these records and click on send to payer. The records will go to Minnesota DHS or to any other payer that's set up, and that is the billing process. And so if you compare how many steps and how many buttons need to be clicked for billing in the past in legacy to this process, you can see this is going to be a huge time saver for your billing team. They can then focus on working on records that need attention, need to be looked at and reviewed. The records that are ready to go, that have passed all the validations, can be sent out when ready. Records that aren't ready to go for some reason, move here into the failed card. These are records the system has looked at and validated and said, I can't send these out yet. There's an issue, and I can expand this further and look at what is the issue that's preventing me from sending this out. In this case, it has to do with a care document isn't available. The CSSP isn't valid. It may be that the service agreement isn't ready. It might be that the client is out of units. There's a variety of reasons why records would fail. But this way, the system has already told the biller and explained to the biller, these are things that need attention, and then you can act on them from here. From this page, I can delete this record if it's done an error. I can make an edit on it. I can write it off, or I can revalidate it and have the system try it again. Very similar to what we've had in the past. Once claims are submitted, you have a claims card, which shows everything that's in transit, or we're waiting on a status information. Maybe we know from DHS that it'll pay or will deny, but in this card, we don't have a remit back yet. And then I can filter for the different reasons. Once the remit arrives, it gets posted automatically. Any records that are not paid in full show up here in the claim denied card. So partial payments and denials. And then anything paid in full moves into claim final and is marked as fully paid. For records that I'm going to work on, that I'm going to resend or resubmit or replace or rebill, I would move them to the workbench. The workbench is where you work the claims. So I can pull these claims up. These are ones that are being worked on and in process. And then based on the different cards, the system will give me what are the options that I can use to correct this claim. I can resubmit this one. Others, I may be, if it's a denial, I can do a replacement or mark it as a spend down or write it off. And so the system is helping the billing team identify how can I fix this claim and get it paid or get it processed. And it's hiding options that are not available for this type of service, just to help simplify the process. So this is what we have today. Again, if you're looking for a more deeper demo into some of the other functions of the system, come see us at more or contact us and we'll set up a more tailored demo to your situations. These are the functions we built out for the DSS process, and these are available now. For those of you ready to migrate and begin that process, you can reach out and we'll begin migrating DT&H customers off of legacy and into Pavillio as time permits, as quickly as we can. If you have questions and want to look at it further, please let us know and we'll be happy to help you. And we've set some time aside for some other questions, and so we can take some of those now.
Yes, there are a couple of questions that have come in, and those of you who have questions, please use the questions dialog box and if you could type a question in, we will share that with the rest of the team as we respond here. So the first question that we have is, how will we bill for ICF and MR? Bill, can you answer that, please?
Yep. The ICF services will be billed through the same process. We have some additional work that we're still finishing up on ICF claims in particular, some uniqueness with the claims, bringing in the group home information and the MPIs into the claim as well. So those are still being finished up. The claim process will work the same. There are options in the system already to where you can record a service without a service agreement number or without a service agreement itself. So those pieces are there. The final piece is the claim creation process for ICFs, and that will be coming in the next 30 to 45 days. On that note, we have the ability to bill to counties and third parties now. We can do private pays now. So all of the different payers are available now just a little bit of additional work still to finish up for the ICF webinar.
Okay, there's another question here. Will you still use the back office? And I think that if I understand the question correctly, back office implying that we have the cache, the legacy application where the billers and others would go in to actually process the variety of time and attendance and billing. Well, in Pavillio, it works differently. There is no back office, and you won't use that back office capability as we have in legacy. Everything runs off of what you see here. So for example, as Bill walked you through, all the claims work is done here. In the back office, there was the loading of clients and employees. That all is done right here. Clients are added through the incoming clients process, and employees are added through the employee process, employee screens where new employees are set up. So everything happens here, and there is no separate back office function. Right.
What you would do is based on the users and the roles. One of the things in Pavillio, if you haven't seen it already, is we have a lot more capability, a lot more functionality around setting up roles and users and permissions, so that you can define that a DSP would only see the My Stuff menu. The biller would need to see the financials menu, but maybe not the scheduling. And you've got case managers, you've got supervisors, you've got agency administrators that need different parts of the application. And so rather than having different modules of the system, as we did in legacy, we had a client, we had an employee, module, we had the mobile app module for the DSPs. In Pavillio, we're handling everything in one platform, and then we manage what people can have access to based on the system permissions. And so that's how that would work in Pavillio. It's a little different model than is done today.
Okay, the next question we have is, if I understand correctly, we will now be able to see more client info on the mobile apps, such as the emergency contact, meds, etc. Yes, the answer is correct. The answer is yes, you will be able to see more information on the mobile app. The nice thing is, in legacy, we had the mobile app and we had the back office component. The nice thing is now it's one platform, everything is in one place. So by defining a role of a DSP, you can decide how much information the DSP sees, and that can include med information, that can include history, that can include, say, if you had custom fields that you have within the system that you set up, you can show those. So the system is far more versatile and flexible, where you can show as much information as you want, as little information as you want, and separated by role. A DSP can see a certain amount. The supervisor can see more. You can even give access to clients and the responsible parties so that they can see information for the client who is being served. So this is actually something we forgot to mention. Now in Pavillio, you can give access to responsible parties so that the parent or the RP can come in and look at the care history, goals and outcomes, and work documentation and work completed. All of that can be viewed on the portal, on the Pavillio website, without any additional technology. So they would, the responsible party would just go to the website and view it. Okay, next question. Where do claims for paper invoices go? So this is third party and county. And so talk a little bit about how we handle that now.
So currently the way that it works, so the services for third parties and counties, the system would create an export that outputs the data into an Excel file. That file can be formatted different ways depending on what you need. It can be just a straight data file that comes out, and then it can be a mail merge with a Word document if you've got a template. If there are other formats that are needed, that can be connected to that Excel file as well. So the current version is that it will export all of the data out into a file. You can specify, do I want all counties together? Do I want it county by county, kind of payer by payer? So you can specify all of that and output the data, and then take the data and send it to the county based on their required format.
So a follow-on question to that is, are there revenue reports associated with third-party claims and county invoices?
Yes, there are. And so within the platform, there's a couple of different views that we can use. So here under financials, there's an option here for the agency financials. And so from this view, I can get a quick look at all of my service lines. I want to look back since the first of the year, through the end of August. And just by searching that data, I can get quick glance information and get the data by service line to show me what is entered and not billed, what is billed and not paid, what is some cash that I've received, and then thus what's my total revenue, the sum of those three. So I can get that at a quick glance information at the service level. And then using the analytics tool from here, I can open our custom reporting, and this would give you different reporting in dashboards. I can open this up and see a variety of different reports. I didn't even touch on this, but all of these different reports, lots of different ways, and getting a report to see by payer, what's my revenue, what are my payments per month. Here we're just looking at it by date. We just tweak this chart and put a payer filter on it, and you can get all of these totals by payer. So a lot of flexibility, different ways we can customize this and set this up for you based on your needs. And then you get the ability to modify those custom reports as well. That will be coming in the future. And so we'll help get your first draft set up, and then we'll give you the access to make further modifications a little while down the line.
Okay, the next question is about posting payments for family deductibles and spend downs. I think this would be a good one to demonstrate how that works.
Okay. So we're going to start by going into a client's profile. I think Shelly is one that's got some financials here. So this is an area that we've made a big change on how we handle this. And what we did here is within each client, they now have a financials tab. And in the past, in legacy and the way most systems handle this, is a spend down is part of a claim that's billed to Minnesota DHS in an example. And DHS short pays it because there's a spend down or a family deductible on this. And in legacy, that always showed as money that is owed by the payer, by DHS, and that's not correct. In actuality, that money is now owed by Shelly in this example. And so within Pavillio, we've shifted that process so that when a spend down is identified, that money shifts into an account and shows as a balance due for this individual client. Okay, so I can see that as of a certain date, I have an open balance, that Shelly owes. Okay, the system will create statements, on a monthly basis, and then I can take that statement and send it out and keep track of that person's balance. Think of this almost like a credit card account balance, where every month you get a statement that says, here's new charges, here's payments you've made, here's what you owe, in total. And so this creates an account, creates a statement that's owed, to Shelly. And then as payments are brought in, I can post a payment. Right on this page, there's a manual accounting screen where I can record a payment, for this service, for this account, for this individual, for Shelly, right into the system. And I just have to enter the date and the amount, and it'll get recorded against her account. And so that way, as you send these out, you're going to have balances that go out, to each individual. You can apply a credit and say, no, we're going to write off some of this balance. Shelly doesn't have to pay it all, or you can post a payment right from this page. So as you get checks in, as you get payments, you can record that against that client's balance. From a reporting standpoint, it keeps the accounts much cleaner, where you can know what does Minnesota DHS owe you, what does the county owe you, and what is a private pay, what does a Shelley owe you for spend downs or private or family deductibles.
There's a question about do you have access to the Hennepin County template, as they require certain fields. Therefore, when exporting an Excel doc, it puts the correct info in the format that Hennepin County wants on their forms. So I think we have the data right now. We're not customizing to forms yet, right? So this is still going to be data that doesn't necessarily populate the Hennepin County. Like in Legacy, I think we had some of the forms built out. In Pavillio, we haven't gotten to that yet. Right now, you get the data, but you don't get the forms.
Correct. Yeah,
okay.
But that will be coming.
Okay. The next question is how much of the data that we have in Legacy would be migrated? So talk a little bit about what migration capability we have today. And so there are a couple of things. One is data in Legacy can be migrated. And so clients and employee information can be migrated. The jobs and pay rates and that information is available, but I think what we've recognized is while we can migrate that, there a lot of customers have a lot of old data in there. The system doesn't let you just migrate some data; it migrates everything. So while if you're moving into Pavillio, we recommend where possible recreating some of that data, and if it makes sense to migrate, yes, you will be able to migrate it, but I think it's an opportunity to clean up as well.
Yeah. And just to add to that, all of the clients, the contact information, the additional contacts migrate over. All of the service agreements migrate today. Employees, employee pay rates, any notes that are on client profiles, all of that would migrate as well. Claim data and historical, attendance data does not migrate. That will stay in Legacy. And the reason for that is kind of twofold. One is the structures of the two systems are completely different. And so trying to make data from one system fit another one for that type of information is very, very difficult. And if it's not going to be a clean import, then it's better to leave it in an environment where you can get to it. So all of the historical claims, the attendance data, you'll still have access to. You still keep access to the Legacy system for a read-only. Once all of that is cleaned up and finished. And so we would migrate as much data as we can. There'll be a little bit of additional setup that you would enter for some of the jobs and pay rates and wage categories in Pavillio. And then once you start using Pavillio, you'll still have Legacy data available for reporting and for pulling that history as you need to, as long as you need it.
Okay, a couple of questions about when can we start using and when can we migrate over. So just talk a little bit about the process and the fact that we have a waiting list for people wanting to migrate. There's only so much capacity we have to be able to migrate people. We want to get you migrated as soon as possible, but it does require some work on our end and some training for you. So if you're eager to migrate, get a hold of us. Bill should go ahead to talk about how we go about this.
And so, yeah, if you're interested in migrating and ready to start the process, let us know. You can certainly send that through the contact information that came with the webinar, or the recording link that comes through, or send it to me. And we'll start identifying who's ready to go and look at our capacity. As Prabha mentioned, we've got a bunch of projects already in motion, so we'll get you going as fast as possible. And there are some things that you can start with right away. There is some data cleanup from the Legacy system that can be done to start that process, and that's different data requirements that Pavillio has, like address information and different fields that need to be filled in. We've got some reports and processes to get to you so that you can start cleaning your data, so that as soon as that data is clean, we can begin the migration process. Typically, it's going to take somewhere between 6 to 12 weeks, I would say, for a DTH provider to move into Pavillio. And that'll be based on, kind of the complexity, the number of jobs, the number of people that need to be trained, just the different variety of things that need to be done. And so, if you're interested and ready to start that process, we'll look at scheduling, and then we'll reach back out to you as soon as we've got, project managers available. We'll assign someone to work with you directly, and they'll set up a schedule for, moving things over, setting up a pilot group, migrating your data in, doing the training that needs to be done, and, showing you everything that needs to happen. Just to add on our project management team, we have 7 project managers that are in our implementation group for either setting up new customers or migrating customers from legacy, including a couple who have come from the industry. We've recognized that having industry experience, having experience working in an agency is very, very valuable. And so we've added a couple of project managers that come from the DTH space, others from home care, others from other intensive services, so that they're familiar with the needs and the challenges that each of your agencies have, so they can speak the same language. And so that's just something that we've added over the last year to make sure that the expertise and the skills of the people that we have match the services we're providing as best as we can.
Okay, we have one last question. Recording employee time cards. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yep. So employee time cards, typically they would be handled here under my stuff, and I have a location. But I'm not a caregiver, so I can't see my list.
So why don't you log out and log in?
So bear with me 1 second. Let me log out and log back in. And so if I'm a caregiver, so I've logged in, same platform, but you can see with a different user, I have a much different profile here, a different menu. Okay. So for employee time cards, I would go to a location here. And so for each of the different sites, each of the different work sites that this agency provides, I might have a group home, I might have work sites, I might be out in the field. And so I can record service, and I have the ability to either clock in or I can do a manual entry either way. So if I didn't get to clock in immediately when I got to work, I can enter it manually. But if I just clock in, it asks what service am I providing. I'm going to do DSS services, and then it starts my clock here. So very similar to how time is clocked in and out for clients, an employee's time clock, records the same way. End of the shift, end of the day, I can clock out. And then I get a confirmation screen where I can make edits to my times if I need to. I can record notes about the service, about the work I did today. Okay. And then as an added feature, we do record where was that person clocked in and out. So even if it's a service that's not required by EVV, Pavillio by standard does record that location of where you're clocking in and out, so that you can identify, are services being clocked in and out at the same location they should be, or is it being clocked in and out elsewhere? So this is how an employee would clock in and out and record their time. And then there would be an approval process, almost identical to client attendance approval, that supervisors would approve employee time, and then that data flows into payroll as well.
So the data, payroll data, actually, can you talk a little bit about how payroll data is exported? We have about a minute here before we wrap up. So maybe just talk about it.
So quickly, in the payroll process, after the time is all approved and finalized, there is a computation process that is done where it takes a batch of time and figures out, is there overtime? What is the pay rate that applies for that individual for that work that's being done? Kind of collates everything together. And then you have the ability to export that data out in a variety of formats. We've got several different templates already set up for payroll, ADP, Microsoft GP, SL, iSolved, you know, a variety of other ones. By default, that data comes out as an Excel file, and you get a summary tab that gives you totals by employee by week, as well as a detail that gives you each individual punch in and out. And then you can use those templates to load into your payroll system as needed. If there's payroll platforms we don't have, you know, we will add those as we go. One I forgot to mention, I do know that we do have QuickBooks as well. I know many of you use QuickBooks for payroll, and so that's available as part of that process also.
Well, great. Everyone, I think we've reached the end of our time here. Thank you for joining us. Christine, do you have some closing thoughts and notes in terms of the survey?
I do. There's going to be a survey that's going to pop up when you close out of the meeting, the webinar this morning. So go ahead and fill that out. Your feedback is important to us. And I just want to remind you that there will be a follow-up email here in the next couple of days with that webinar recording in that for you to review. And any questions we didn't get to answer, we'll provide answers to those. And I just want to say, again, thank you for attending this Cache software webinar and to make the rest of your day amazing. Thanks, everyone.